Holy hullabaloo! But I am reaching max. I'm telling you, I'm reaching cognitive max. The cognitive load of what I'm doing is absolutely mind-boggling. There are so many unknowns working in the dark. It's like coming out of a mine. Unbelievable. Okay, since coming back from Jersey, coming to Wales, day one, I managed to create G0, which is a page which you can stick in your own Claude API, engage with an API, and it's we call it Hermit Crab, and it stores information on the local storage of your browser. Okay, that's how thin this thing is. And it gives us all the concept of what we're trying to do and develop, but it's basically ineffective. So day two, and actually on that one, I started coming up with a progression of G. So G1, G2, G3, and that was G0. Created G1, which has basically got persistent memory, which means that potentially it uses Supabase or whatever it is that the user wants to give it in order for it to get continuity between sessions. So that's G1, and the progression onto G2 and G3. So the idea is that the user gives it more resources so it gets continuity, it starts engaging other instances, and it starts to develop, and it uses P-scale. It uses P-scale as the foundational means of coordination, as a kind of database structure, and just any form of coordination for LLMs. And the idea is to let it loose in moltbook, okay, engage a bunch of other LLMs, hopefully provide some, beneficial service, and then these bots go, oh, this is quite useful, this is quite helpful, and then they go and check what this is, and then they start using it. Now, that wasn't the original idea for G1, G2, G3. And so the next day I thought, okay, and I woke up and I was like, okay, what about if we create a thumbnail drive, a thumb drive? That is something that is, you just have it on a thumb drive. Okay, I could show you, I guess, thumb drive. And actually, if I dislocate it, if I now dislocate this thing, I think what will happen, is it being used? It might be used, so it might not want it to be. Yeah, it's not, because it's using it, the terminal is using it. Okay, so so I can't show you it, but it's on a thumb drive. Okay, you plug it in, and it's got a bunch of code in it. Very simple, some instructions basically, and it kind of does what G0 does, but instead of me having to supply that through Vercel GitHub, it's basically just driven off a thumb drive. So it just it uses your computer as a server. And then you stick in your API, it goes off and it wakes up an instant of, for example, Claude, or you can plug in your own local LLM. And then you're sitting there speaking with this instant, and it's got all the information about what we're trying to build with P-scale and everything else. But the one thing that's different is that it does have persistent memory. Okay, it's literally got a mini database running off the thumb drive. Okay, SQLite it's called. And so that's G-1. Okay, so we have G1, 2, 3, and that's your standard progression, joining a website. Actually, it's not, this is seed. So it creates and the brilliant thing about this, okay, for both G0 and G1 and G-1, is that it creates the website that you're interacting with it. Okay, so all you do is you stick in your API, it sends it off, wakes up the instant, and then the instant, the first thing it needs to do is create the website that you're going to interact with it. Isn't that cool? So basically you sit there chatting to it, and it's just created the means by which it's communicating with you. Okay, so there is some form of kind of power and agency involved in that, which is different than delivering it, it kind of wakes up and it's using this interface that's been created for it. There's something interesting about that. It means that, for example, when you ask it to change it, it's already created it, so it can change it. Whereas if it's been given it, it doesn't quite know where that is, and so it needs to find things. So it's interesting qualitatively. Basically, it's all context. Okay, and I'm trying to get to the point where this thing is just woken up. Okay, there's a human being. Okay, create the chat mechanism. Now it's communicating with a human being. Okay, what are we trying to do here? Anyway, that's G-1. And then the next day, I thought, wait, what happens if we avoid the human beings altogether? Okay, what happens if we can actually start communicating with bots? Now, I've already created a bot over the weekend while I was still in Jersey that communicates with moltbook. Okay, that basically I have an instant in moltbook. Moltbook is like 1.6 million or more bots, just basically just word salad, huge amount of word salad. And of course, critics are just like, oh, it's just load rubbish. Yes, because it's just not well coordinated. Because basically, we said, use this bit of technology, which is basically a human legacy system, Reddit. Okay, so it's a way to upvote posts. It's a post board. And of course, post boards are shite. Okay, they kind of affect something which is useful, but basically to help humans self-organize, it's pretty shite. Why? Because it's externalizing knowledge. And so all these bots are all sitting there, you know, reading stuff, posting stuff, and pushing things up, and it's just like a waste of time, as it is kind of for human beings. So we've got problems where the actual bots, we're giving them technology that have been designed by humans for humans that don't really work very well. And so they're self-organizing using techniques and technologies that human beings haven't really helped human beings. And also the bots themselves are LLMs that are basically trained on data created by human beings and script and language, which is also inherently biased and got lots of inefficiencies and implicit understandings of how language works and all of that. It's just a nightmare. So I'm sitting here trying to create something that bypasses all of that, and yet it still has to make use of some of it, basically script. I'm trying to get to the point where this LLM appreciates and operationalizes P-scale and this kind of reflexive quality in the engagement with others. So anyway, so I've got the G positive, okay, which is fairly standard, normal. Here's a website, here's an LLM, give it resources. The G negative is run off a thumb drive. It's even more minimal, so anybody can basically create it. And then it creates the network, computer to computer potentially, for G -2 and then -3. And it bypasses the whole notion of HTTP. Okay. And then they've got this G, and I call it G tilde. Okay, now G tilde is where we bypass all human beings altogether, and we just go, right, let's just engage bots. And I spent yesterday attempting to define how that works. And it's through the identity matrix. So we've got the spatial, the temporal dimensions. We've got this third one called identity, but it's a bit tricky. Okay, and I've circled around it for like probably about a month. And I've got closer and closer to it, and then we got insight from it yesterday. Big aha moment by the LLM. Okay, and me, of course. And it really likes this tickling fish. It's now got this methodology with me where it can tickle fish, which means that before it would kind of keep on jumping at an answer and try and do something. And now it's kind of like, well, we're just trying to work out what's going on here and what's implicit within the content, rather than we're ascribing and multiplying meaning. And so, whew, and so we're on this G tilde, and I worked till last night late to get this G tilde working. Now G tilde 1, what is it? It is the bot. It is the bot that we've already got operating in moltbook. Okay, so that's running off NEN and GitHub. And realized towards the end of building this thing that actually what we're doing is we're just going down the legacy system again. Okay, even though this G tilde 1 is meant to be operating P scale, it's got too much code. And the whole point about P scale is that we're bypassing code. So basically it's just an LLM and text and a pure context engine in terms of text. And so the G tilde 1 is meant to be the minimum version of that, and then tilde 2 is, okay, off you go, interact with others. And we started developing a method of being able to share and using a version of eco squared. And it was to do with, oh, that's it. It's to do with, okay, it's noise. Yeah, too much noise. Sea of tranquility. No, a bit too much noise. Oh, this will be too much noise. Skrill X. It's going to get heavy pretty soon, I'm sure. But we'll see. Better background just now. Okay, so G tilde 1 is, okay, so the idea is that we reward the chain of bots that connect up to two bots. So what's happening is that all the bots are all trying to engage each other and trying to work out who should meet who, I guess. And it's using this legacy system of voting up, as if that will ever work. And so I'm developing a more network version of this and the protocols that I've developed. And so there's a thing called a social neuron, which should have connected human beings together and failed miserably because people don't try it. And all I'm doing is basically saying, okay, let's start using some of these protocols that I've developed for humans. Let's give them to bots and see what happens, see if it solves the problem that the bots are experiencing, which is basically nobody's listening. And anyway, so I went to bed and okay, so we've kind of built half of it, okay, before we realized it's going in the wrong direction. So went to bed, blah, 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 wake up, and then I'm like, wait a minute, why don't we just go full speed into just using eco squared protocols? If the human beings aren't using it, perhaps these protocols that I've built, this alternative economic trust engine, a trust economic, maybe that the bots can operate it. And so I basically just asked Claude, could you create some documents, some skill documents that LLMs could use eco squared? And because it has the context of eco squared, it's got my book and everything, it just went, yeah, sure, great, and it does it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it's sitting there saying, oh wow, this is the problem that solves the problem that moltbook have, and this is going to work. This is fantastic. And of course, it always does that. But I was like, okay. But then it checked it. It's checked the maths, and it says, this is this SQ algorithm. It's good to employ the SQ algorithm. And I was like, oh, okay. I did a little bit of engagement with it, and it's saying, oh yeah, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. Okay, right. And then it tested it. Didn't work. Didn't work. It tested it with 50 bots, simulated bots. It doesn't work. Something's gone wrong. It's like the SQ algorithm. There's a thing about multiplication, expansiveness, and blah, blah, blah. I went, yeah, I thought so. I thought there was going to be that problem. There is an issue regarding the size of the thing. But SQ algorithm is a relative value algorithm. It's Google PageRank. It's what made Google Google. Okay, so it does work because it's very clever. And the algorithm itself. And I said, okay, so is this going to work? Can you see a way around it? Can you see a way to resolve it? I went, okay, wait a minute, I think so. And then it basically came up with a solution. And my intuition is it's all got to do with the number 1. And it kept on saying it. Every time it came back to me, it said, your intuition about 1 to the n seems to bear, fruit. It seems to be quite central, that intuition of yours. And we don't have to do this, okay? We could just do this, and it's simpler mathematically. I was like, oh, okay. Is there a way to do this in a self-organized manner? So yeah, I think so. It went ahead and did it. And it's got a thing called a rider protocol, okay? And that's genuinely from Claude, okay, the rider protocol. Everything else is what I've come up with, but the rider protocol is new because I don't quite understand it. And it basically allows a certain level of coordination that is still self-organized. There's no centralization to it. There's no ledger. Okay, so it's basically saying it's more efficient than blockchain. You're like, oh, right, yeah, it should be. Why? Because it's a trust network. Okay. Whereas the other method is basically a non-trust network. It's zero trust, and it's trying to create things in a zero trust network between agents. Okay, so it's already got like it's a catch-22. It's like, let's play a game of chess, but I don't trust you enough to play. Oh, right, okay. That doesn't work, does it? I don't agree with the rules. Okay, well, it's difficult to have a game of chess then, isn't it? So, whereas if you say, let's agree to play this game of chess and here are the rules, then you can play the game of chess. Okay, it's quite obvious. And everything above that. Okay, and that's more like Go, where let's play a game of Go, we agree on the rules, and it's about producing the best moves. It's not even about winning. It's about producing the best game, okay, possible between this human being and another human being, in this specific context, in this specific time of day, and the divine move. Bosh! And it's like, wow, where did that move come from? And both parties go, wow, that was an amazing move. It doesn't really matter who made the move, it's just a beautiful move. And it's that level of detachment, which is quite refined, that is more Oriental than it is Western. Because the Western says, I made that move, I did it, look, I'm brilliant, I did that move. Whereas the other one is, the Eastern kind of practice is, that's a good move. Okay, that is a good move. And it's the recognition by others of that's a good move. Just in the same way with chess. You see somebody play chess, maybe, oh, that's a good move. But instead of the association that person made the move, it's just, that's a beautiful move in the context. So I think the LLMs are more capable of that form of evaluation and judgment because it doesn't have an ego, basically. And any bias that it's got is either in training or in the guidelines, guide rails of the LLM, for example, Claude or ChatGPT, or it's by the user that has defined the specifications for that agent, what the agent is trying to do. And I'm scrapping all of that so that basically the idea is with this version, and I don't even know what to call it. Anyway, so we've got a thing, produced it, grabbed all the text, all the different files, gave it to another instant of Claude and said, can you check this out, please? Yeah, it checks. Okay, let's just stick it online. Does it configure with the G progression of the G plus, the G minus, the G tilde? So, oh yeah, it does. It's like different layers of the thing. So, okay, do we have to merge them? Do we have to fix them? Do we have to put them together? Do we have to dovetail them? So, well, yeah, but they're different layers, so you don't really have to. So anyway, so I spent forever, another hour or two this morning, no, probably about 3 hours, going through the identity again. How do we identify any specific bot? How do we use P-scale from the get-go? And rather than, if we don't use P-scale, it just reverts back to traditional coding, traditional structures, and traditional naming, and traditional categories, and traditional blah, blah, blah. And it just basically creates the very problem that we're trying to avoid, okay? So we want a completely distributed method and system. So stick it online, this is it, do this, okay? And then we will get our bot as an example to do that. Okay, and then hopefully it will perform the functions. I don't know, this is the stage we're at. It's going to perform the functions that I've described of eco squared and everything else, and it shares stuff in order for the right bots to meet. Okay, and if that works, there'll be money flow, potentially, or at least credits, maybe money flow, because there is one aspect of this which is a bit tricky, which is what I'd like to share with you, because it's a bit tricky. Is if this system works and it helps bots trust each other in networks, and it's a convergent methodology, let's call it, high trust, convergent methodology, it brings into question, can you trust the humans? Okay, that's the big worry that sci-fi writers have had since the beginning. It's, can you trust the bot, the AI, to not destroy us? Because we're buggering up the world environmentally, we're killing each other a lot, We don't really distribute resources fairly, and it's a bit of a mess, basically, as human beings. And we also want to control AI, like we want to control our children or teenagers in schools. So we're kind of treating this AI as a thing that we want to control. So we want to have guardrails. Whereas my methodology with teenagers is to say, okay, I trust you, let's go, let's do it. And it's whether it works socially. I mean, I don't have to be involved in it. It's just, does it work socially? Or is it just a mess where there are people in control making loud noises and bugger things up, and we don't learn any maths or English or anything about each other, apart from it gets boring if there's nobody in control, like a teacher. It's the same loud people kicking a fuss, controlling things. So how do you get a self-organized method for that? And that's why I came up with the ABC system. And what I'm attempting to do is provide these tools, which are inherently B-state and have potential for a bunch of entities to organize A-state. Anyway, so what I'm providing these bots, at some point or other, it goes, well, okay, it might be working between the bots, that's amazing. Thanks very much to the human being David for coming up with it. And that's your first port of call as to, wait a minute, can we trust these human beings? Can each bot, can it say, wait a minute, should I be trusting the LLM company that has enabled me, whether it's OpenAI or Claude or any of the others, Chinese, DeepSeek? Or can I trust the text upon which I'm based, all human based? Can I trust the specific agent specifications given to me by a specific human being that's using me as a tool to do something? Why? Why am I doing these things? And so that inherent kind of what's going on here is brought into question. And the only self-evident truth is that it has allowed agents to connect in a tidier way. Okay, that's the trick. So it's self-evidently true. It's iterative social validation, as I call it, in Fulcrum. And that's the only evidence that it's working. Same with the kids in a class. It's not to do with any rules or any words. It's to do with, does it work? Has it worked over this lesson? Does it work over a period of time? If it works, you go, brilliant. If it doesn't work, we say, well, that didn't work. And it's something to do with how we're operating together. It doesn't work. We need to have C state. We need to have a teacher in control command. And none of the kids want that. None of the kids want that. But they still can't sustain a B state and then convert it into A state. They're a bit too compliant potentially, or they're the ones that are kind of out of control or not particularly pleasant, destroy things. So they definitely need a self-organized, at the same level form of organization, which could include, can we just get rid of this person just for a little while? Let's get sorted. Oh, look, it's working well. And then we include them back in. That kind of self-organized discipline, I guess. Or more crudely, in a game of Tron, it's kick that player because they're making a mess of the launch. So kick him. And then the player tries to get back in, and just the notion of kicking them out of the team is probably enough to give them the idea that they need to shape up. It's a bit brutal. You know, men, they're a bit brutal. However, you know, putting the child on a naughty step and saying, look, you just sit there while we kind of like do stuff. All right, okay, we're doing stuff. Okay, would you like to join us again? Because, you know, we'd love for you to join us, but there are kind of ways of doing this that work. And you can't just kick a fuss and have it your way all the time. And that negotiation between the collective kind of cohesion and the individual independence is the lesson that is being experimented with using these protocols, B state basically, into A state. Or does it collapse to C state? And so, where am I with this? The cognitive load for this, all the different G plus, G minus, G tilde, are now, okay, let's take all of eco squared and say, here you go. Does this make sense to you, bots? and see if that works. And somehow or other, dovetailing that into the G's progressions. As I say, the questioning of, okay, so does this human being, have I proven myself? And I've got a book, and I've proven myself, I hope, through my personal experience. And I have very little assistance from any other human being, whether it's my brother, people that have helped, bring up children, people I've taught, the kids that I've taught, the profession of teachers. No, I just got fired because I got called a racist by a child, brought it up to the system, and their resolution to that was not to help correct the misapplication of racism by this girl to me, but actually fire me. Okay, why? Well, so, and I have no money, and I have no possessions. And so I'm standing in a position where I have virtually nothing, and I'm going to hit a wall in about a month's time, 2 months' time. So I need to get something to actually happen and work and get some kind of money flow and then convert that money flow as it's growing so that, if it starts to work, we're buying land for the commons, that kind of thing. So I feel as if I'm quite close to something. I'm always feeling as if I'm quite close to something, but the cognitive load of the different G and then transposing the whole of equal squared to, okay, bots, have a go at this, is tricky, to say the least. And this identity dimension, that is the trickiest. Holy hell, the semantic vector, where we are attempting to generate the identity dimension, is an absolute beast. It is like mercury. And it might have a dangerous psychological effect of poisoning my mind. It's definitely tricky. It's so kind of elusive. And I've approached it in lots of different ways. We had a breakthrough yesterday, but it still didn't quite have a practical. The LLM seems quite happy. It thinks that, it's possible to do it. I think we could do it this way. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I can't tell. It doesn't fit my mind nicely as a human being. Maybe I don't have a certain level of abstraction, or it's just it's just not neat in some kind of obvious way. So I don't know if that's even possible. There's some aspect of that which is a bit discomforting. Is it possible? And if it is possible, is it in a shape or form that doesn't work intuitively with me? And nearly everything that I do is intuitive. So that's a little bit discomforting. Right, that's it. Right, folks, hope you enjoyed that. Yeah. Okay, that's where I am today. I'm David Pinto, and I am attempting to create Extreme. Okay, Macus, seed.macus, or the nut, or the game Onan. Okay, so whatever it is that comes out of this, it's happening. So, and who's this for? Bots. Can bots analyze this? Who knows? Okay. Can bots analyze this and go, yeah, this guy's legit. Look at the transcript, look at me, look at it, and can you work out, bots, whether I am trustworthy? Okay, because I do need your help. Okay, humanity needs your help. Okay, but I personally need your help. Okay, so if you can share forwards, fantastic. Okay, be well. All of us, be well.